You are now watching The Meech.
Some pretty major news recently broke out, and that is the fact that Charles Martinet will no longer be voicing Mario, Luigi, Wario, Waluigi, or any characters in the games, which is something that has been speculated about since Super Mario Bros. Wonder and WarioWare Move It were revealed, because the voice sounded a bit off, but now is a confirmation that Charles Martinet will no longer be voicing Mario and friends in games, and he's now Mario Ambassador, which we'll talk about a bit, but, this is just surprising and also sad.
When you called me this morning, I was actually at work, and I didn't really know how to process it. I think you and I talked about it briefly. I think we just kind of brushed it aside, the Super Mario Bros. Wonder controversy, because we all thought, he did an interview a while back with him saying, I'm going to voice Mario, for as long as I can until, I think he says something to the effect that he's going to voice Mario until he passes away. So I think it was a shock in that regard, because he's stepping down from the role. And it just doesn't really feel real to me. I feel like, Nintendo and Shigeru Miyamoto did create Mario and Friends, but I feel like Charles Martinet did too. I think he didn't just provide a voice for these characters, he provided life for these characters too. And a lot of the catchphrases that Mario and Friends have really came from Martinet's improv. And because he's a brilliant actor, if it wasn't for Martinet, I don't think we would have... Well, I think we would still have Mario and Friends, but I don't think they would be as iconic as they are today.
I totally agree. He definitely provided character to the characters, and pretty much made their personalities and such. See, back then, before Martinet, Mario's personality was more like, "Hi, I'm Mario, I'm here to clean the toilet!" Just the stuff from the Super Show era, stuff like that. But the Mario we know and love today, we can thank a lot of that for Charles Martinet. And the thing is, the reason why I haven't talked about it much on the channel, even though there's been speculation about him stepping down, because in the Super Mario Bros. Wonder trailer, it did sound kind of off, Mario's voice did, but I didn't want to say anything about it for a few reasons. For one, it was just too early to tell anything. It was pretty much just stepping into the category of speculation and theories, and if I wanted to make videos about that, I would just make a plethora of videos about the Nintendo Switch 2. I did discuss it a few times on live streams with you, but it was pretty much just the extent of that. And, I remember in the live streams where we'd get questions about it, and I talked about it a bit, but, at a point I was like, yeah, I've said what I needed to say. I think it's still probably him, but we'll just have to wait and see, because that's pretty much what it was. It was just speculation. There was no concrete evidence or anything like that. But there was definitely some solidification for Mario sounding off and people questioning it, because now it is confirmed that that is indeed not Mario in Super Mario Bros. Wonder being voiced by Charles Martinet, and it essentially confirms what a lot of fans were speculating, and personally, even I noticed something was kind of off. It didn't exactly sound like the Mario we've come to know and love. It sounds close, but there was just something about it that made me think, is this Martinet? But I think WarioWare Move It, where Wario says, "Excellent!" That didn't sound anything like Martinet, and that was more concerning. But now we have confirmation, and, I feel like we need to do a discussion about it, considering that it is very important in terms of Nintendo and Mario games, and it was just so unexpected. Now the good news is, he's just stepping down from voicing Mario. From what we know, he's still in great health, he's going to be traveling the world, pretty much just retiring. Which, it's fine. People want to retire at a certain age. When Reggie retired, I was sad about it, but I understood it. And, fortunately, from what we know, he's still in good health, and that's pretty much all that mattered to me. Whatever decision he makes, it's really up to him. I'm gonna miss him as a voice of Mario and Friends, but at the same time, if he wants to retire, then he should be able to do so.
Absolutely. We have to understand, at the end of the day, Charles Martinet is a person who probably wants to live the rest of his life traveling. I mean, we don't know to what extent happened behind the scenes, but gathering from who Charles is as a person on his social media, he really loves to travel. And I think this new role of him as Mario Ambassador really doubles down on that. And I think it's a great way for him to segue into a new chapter of his life. And one of the theories that I had about this new role as Mario Ambassador was, again, this is speculation, this is not confirmed, but perhaps he had a role in choosing the next voice actor who steps into the role of Mario, Luigi, Wario, Waluigi. Perhaps maybe he's doing voice directing now. I mean, this is a completely different medium, but in modern SpongeBob, Tom Kenny is the one that's doing voice directing for the franchise, taking over Andrea Romano, who did it for years. So maybe there's sort of a passing of the torch in that regard in terms of roles that he's taking, but we also don't know if he's just retiring from Mario and still pursuing other roles with voice acting. It's still very unclear what's going on, and to a certain extent, they did say that we were going to get a video with Martinet and Mr. Miyamoto sometime later detailing things we don't know right now. Perhaps maybe even revealing the new voice actors, but there's still a lot up in the air, but there's also a lot of bittersweet feelings too.
Yeah, it definitely is bittersweet, considering that he's voiced Mario way longer than a lot of people realize. It wasn't starting with Super Mario 64. His first Mario voice acting role was a Mario pinball game from 1991, and he also voiced Mario in Mario in Real Life. It was this thing with the floating Mario head from Mario Teaches Typing, and he was also the voice of Mario in Mario's Game Gallery, which was a computer game that just had Mario hosting a collection of board games and such. But Super Mario 64 definitely was the most notable introduction to Mario. Even though he was voicing him before, that's where most of us heard Martinet voice Mario for the first time. And considering it's been this way since it's been over 3 decades, it's hard to just imagine Mario without Martinet. Now, sure, there was a Super Mario Brothers movie, which we'll get into, but, with Martinet voicing Mario in the games and him not doing it anymore, it is just sad. And, I respect his decisions either way. And I think that if he is doing the role of Mario Ambassador, where he's overseeing a voice actor and seeing which one would fit the job well, I think he'd choose a great candidate to voice Mario. We don't know much about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but whoever is doing the voice of Mario sounds pretty good. So much so where a lot of people were thinking it is Martinet. Now, sure, there was up for debate, but still, I think that he'd choose a good candidate for the role of Mario. But, it's sad.
I think so too.
It's unfortunate, because, we're Mario fans, and seeing Mario without the voice of Martinet won't be the same. But, like you said, there's a lot that there's still speculation about, and even though Nintendo announced there's going to be a video coming soon with Martinet and Miyamoto talking about it, for now it's just up to speculation, and there's been, wonder about what's going on and why he left the role of Mario, considering some of his prior remarks. Now, people do change their mind, but it seems he was very passionate about voicing Mario, and I just wanted to state the disclaimer. What we're saying is just purely speculation. None of it was ever said by Martinet. We're just guessing what could have gone on for him to step down as Mario, and none of this is confirmed whatsoever. So, there's been... The main common theory is that, he just stepped down because he just wants to retire and enjoy life, or that he's getting old and can't voice Mario anymore. But as we've seen, he still does a great job voicing Mario, and he's only 67, which isn't that old.
Yeah, it's not that old. But perhaps maybe Martinet decided that maybe he wants to step down from voice acting entirely and wants to take a new role in his life. I do remember he made remarks at the recent Too Many Games Expo where he essentially said his number one passion is, traveling, especially with, uh, his significant other, and that's something that he wants to do for the rest of his life. So maybe that's something that he wants to focus more on, and that maybe that comes with, retiring as the voice of Mario or retiring voice acting.
Yeah, and if that's the case, it's sad for us. And, the Mario series won't be the same, but I respect his decision. But there are some other theories about why Martinet could have left, and this one is the most interesting, but it doesn't seem all that likely considering just how great of a person Martinet is. He doesn't seem like the kind who would do this. So, with the Super Mario Bros. Movie, we know that Chris Pratt took the role of Mario for the movie, and there could have been, oh, well, I've been voicing Mario for 30 years, and you have Chris Pratt voice him in the movie? That's lame. Why should I continue voicing Mario? So essentially just not being happy that he didn't voice Mario in the movie, but for me, I'm thinking about it from a personal perspective, and to you guys, I would try thinking the same way. If you had a role that you were doing for 30 years, and you just get cast by someone who, frankly, did a mediocre job as your character, I don't think Chris Pratt was bad, I don't think he was good, he was just kind of there. It was one of the weaker points of the Mario movie. Other characters did a great job, but, it was just Chris Pratt. It just felt like an executive decision. Oh, we gotta have celebrities, we gotta have star power! When the reality is the star power would have come from Martinet, considering that he is the star and he's voiced Mario. For me personally, thinking about it, I might be a little upset about it, and I'm sure he was upset about it. As to whether or not it would cause me to leave a role, I don't know. I'd really have to be part of it. I would say maybe, but I get agitated easily, so it could be different. I would say Martinet is a lot more carefree, and maybe he would understand, but that is a theory about it, and I'm not sure how you feel about it. For Martinet, just considering how he is, I would say it's unlikely, but it could be a possibility.
It's a possibility. It's not outside the realm of it. I mean, we similarly kind of had. Well, we don't know what happened with this either, but like going back to when Roger Craig Smith was no longer voicing Sonic, there was a lot of rumors saying that there were kind of issues with the fact that they were getting new voice actors for the recent TV show instead of him in the main voice cast. That was just a rumor that was swirling around. I don't know if that was exactly true, but it echoes very similarly to what you're saying. I don't think that's the reason, because they wouldn't have highlighted Charles Martinet in two roles that, in my opinion, were very flattering to him. I thought him as the father of Mario and Luigi was very, very sweet and fitting. And I also thought, the inclusion of him as Giuseppe, who's like the original Jumpman, was a very nice touch as well.
I think so too.
So I don't think it has anything to do with the movie. I think, and we won't know until maybe the video comes out, or maybe like a few years from now. But I personally think that this was Martinet's decision. I think he wanted to travel. I think it's a big passion of his. And I think that, he can't do the voice forever. And I think he realized maybe through the movie that, there will be someone who succeeds me eventually. Maybe, I should be a part of those discussions going forward so that I can focus on my retirement. I'm just thinking about it like if I was him. Obviously, I'm not him, but, I think ultimately it comes down to him wanting to do maybe an early retirement and just traveling, going to cons, and just spreading joy the way only Charles Martinet can.
I wouldn't say that's an early retirement, but regardless, I think that it's very likely he just wanted to retire and just spend the rest of his time traveling and such and going to conventions. But
right, I wouldn't say early retirement either. I think just
it's early
just
for
based
us,
on the remarks he said before. Yeah,
but it would always be early for us. We want him to
Yeah,
voice Mario forever, but like I said, we respect his decisions either way. But there is one thing
of
that I was
course.
really worried about, and I don't think there's a possibility that it is what it is or what's going on, but there's another actor who I loved watching growing up, Paul Rubens, and unfortunately he recently passed away, and it was very sudden. He was dealing with cancer behind the scenes, and we didn't know anything about it. But, considering that Martinet is going to be traveling, which is a thing you need to be in good health for, and just stuff like that, and he seems to be in great health, I don't think it's a case where he's dealing with an illness and they're preparing for that. I pray to God it isn't, and I don't think it is. But it is
Oh, I
something
don't
that's
think
crossed the
so.
line or mind of myself a little bit, and also some of my friends. So I thought I'd bring attention to it, and I don't think that's the case at all. Like I said, when it
I don't
comes to
think so
this,
either.
I think the most likely thing is just retiring and wanting to travel. But
Es- Especially if, they're doing a special video with Mr. Miyamoto. I mean, I have to imagine that Mr. Miyamoto has a great deal of respect for what Charles did for these characters. I mean, in a way, Miyamoto is Mario's father, but in another way, Charles Martinet can also debatably be Mario's father as well, in the terms of him creating the actual character from his
figurative
voice.
and
I mean,
literal.
yeah, yeah. Well, I would say that Mr. Miyamoto created the heart of Mario, and Charles Martinet is the soul.
That is an
And I
excellent way of
think,
putting it.
yeah, and I think those two guys have a great deal of respect for each other. And I think the fact that they're doing a special video to commemorate this, I don't think there's any bad blood behind the scenes. I think this was in I think this was happening for a long time, because when was the last time we had new voice lines from Charles Martinet? I mean, I remember you and I, when Mario Wonder had its trailer released, there was a point in time where Charles Martinet wasn't even posting on his social media for a while, and I think you and I were starting to get concerned that, something was going on, because keep in mind, this was when the controversy was going on that, he might have been replaced, and we were worried that Nintendo was just going to sweep it under the rug without us knowing. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting situation. I wasn't expecting to hear the news today.
Now, like you said, we just kind of let it settle for the day before discussing it, but I did some research and I looked into it, and it seems that Martinet hasn't really done any new voice lines for the Mario characters since 2021. Apparently, in
Wow.
Mario Party Superstars, a lot of lines were reused from Mario Kart 8, but there were a few new lines, so that could have been the final role. But I know for certain that WarioWare Get It Together, he was Wario in that game, and it did have a few new voice lines. It wasn't full-on cutscenes like WarioWare Gold, but WarioWare Get It Together could have been the final role of Martinet producing new voice lines.
Right.
Or in Mario
Right.
Party Superstars, that could have been it too. But I know for certain it was WarioWare Get It Together. But if you guys know for certain if Mario Party Superstars had new voice lines for Mario and friends, please let us know. But I know that
Yeah.
the last two games that released in 2022, being Mario Strikers Battle League and Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, I believe those were all reused voice lines.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, perhaps, like I was saying, this was the conversations were starting at the end of 2021, going into 2022,
I think it was
and
especially
you know,
apparent with Mario Strikers not having any new voice lines, but with that being
yeah,
said, this could have been something even before the movie, and
it could have been.
it was announced that Chris
And
Pratt was voicing Mario in 2021, so maybe that could have been it, but like I said, I don't think it was likely. But I think this was in the
it,
works for longer than we expected or even realized. But looking at
they
the
did.
history of the games that have released recently, something worth bringing up.
Yeah, I mean, they did also like spotlight Martinet when they were revealing the cast of the Mario movie too. Which, I mean, regardless of if that was his final role or not. They should have spotlighted him regardless. But um, it's just it's interesting that I think it's kind of poetic that that's his final role as Mario's dad and the classic Jumpman character Giuseppe. And I would have. It would have been. I think the fan in me would have liked Martinet to do one more 3D Mario game to go out on a big bang, but at the same time, I'm human, and I understand that when it's time to move on to something else, it's time to move on to something else. And I think I want to segue into what was your first exposure to Charles Martinet as Mario, and what do you think is your favorite line?
It was New Super Mario Brothers. That was the first Mario game I distinctly remember playing. And there are just so many good lines, but it's hard to think of just a favorite one, so I'll let you go and say your favorite in your first Martinet game.
Well, my first Martinet game was New Super Mario Brothers as well, but it wasn't until Super Mario 64 DS that I heard all the classic voice lines like "It's a me, Mario," and "Let's go" and stuff like that. And I think honestly my favorite line that he says is one that he says at the end of all his games, which is "Thank you so much for playing my game," and that hits harder right now. I was watching the staff roll for Super Mario 64, and I don't know. I don't know if it's like the end credits theme that plays that's emotional and like him saying it at the end, but it's almost like this is like we're never gonna hear him say those words again, as Mario in a video game. And that's when it kind of hit me that it's really the end of an era.
It truly is. But in terms of my favorite lines, I love all the classic lines. "It's a me, Mario, wahoo!" All those, but I also love the more obscure ones. When he voiced the characters in Super Mario Advance, "Step right up. If you're ready to get toasted, I am the great Ward."
Oh yeah.
I love all the Super Mario Advance lines. That game just had so many fun voice lines and such. Also, even more obscure lines and stuff, like in the first Mario games he was voicing, like in Mario's Game Gallery, "Looks like it's time to go fishing again." And even in Mario Teaches Typing 2. Yeah, those games aren't very good from a gameplay perspective, but they're still entertaining because Martinet's commentary as Mario is just unlike anything you'd usually see. Especially in Mario Teaches Typing 2. "Oh no, I've fallen, and I can't get up." That's something I would not expect Mario to say, but, those were some hilarious voice lines, and I just love more obscure stuff like that. But it's really hard to choose a favorite line, but I think, wrapping this up, there is one thing I wanted to bring up. Considering how much Nintendo has reused Martinet's voice lines, why do you think that they decided to recast him for Super Mario Bros. Wonder? Do you think they're going to go on the voice acting route now, where Mario and friends are going to be talking in full sentences? Because they did that with the movie, and although that was Chris Pratt, I'm wondering if they're going to incorporate that into some of the games. We did see a little hint of that in Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, but that was mostly the Rabbid characters talking. Mostly Beepo and Genie. Beepo would essentially narrate everything in his charming British accent, and you would get lines from the Rabbid Mario characters, but not Mario and friends. But I'm wondering if they will go the voice acting route, and if that could be a possibility for the future of the series.
It's a possibility. I haven't even thought about it. And the only reason I say it is a possibility is because of the theme parks. And I don't know if you remember, there's a video of it, but Toad had full-on speaking dialogue in like the Toad Cafe, greeting customers, and it was a little bizarre because all you're kind of used to with Toad is "Wow, wow,"
Pretty much.
kind of stuff like that. You're not used to him doing like full sentences. So I would say maybe, but at the same time, they haven't done that since Super Mario Sunshine. And I don't know if that's something they want to go for. I think The reason they're recasting now is just because, big Mario games usually have new voice lines uh, done for them. I mean, Super Mario Odyssey, we had new voice lines. The only exceptions, I think, were the new Super Mario Brothers games and some of the spin-offs, but most of the big 3D Mario games usually have new voice lines mixed in with like some recycled voice lines. But I think it's a possibility. I don't know if that's the main reason, but I guess we'll see pretty soon because August is almost over and we should be seeing a new trailer for Mario Wonder anytime soon. But I just wanted to um, take this time to. I'm sure Mr. Martinet will never see this, but I really want to thank Charles for being the voice of my one of my biggest video game heroes or heroes in general, and bringing joy and life and a sense of freedom to everything that he does. He's such a talent. He's such an amazing guy. He's one of my biggest inspirations for voice acting, which I really want to pursue professionally. He's, he's more than just a voice for Mario, and I'll just say this, and I'll let you go as well, but whoever's voicing the characters next, they can't just do an impersonation of Martinet. They have to really embody the characters the way Martinet did. Sure, you can impersonate a voice perfectly if you can, but it's about impersonating their enunciations too, and their body language. Voice acting still is acting, and they've just got some really huge shoes to fill, and I'm sure whenever they get announced, it's going to be hectic. It's going to be very hectic.
Yeah, it's just like, it is sad. It's the end of an era, but I will say this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charles Martinet, for bringing the life and soul to Mario. You've done this for many years, and to all of us, you will be the number one for Mario.